Hey Jen, okay, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and the feelings involved, another important day with the relationships and feelings involved, just like how the group was, basically. And we're going to look at the death and the lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to relay to you the images and impressions that I get, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can from what we look at, what's going on here, to your current life, and I'm going to try to help however I can. All right? So let's start. First, here where we're going is the island card. So we're going to an island. Now that can mean a lot of things. We know there's the like Hawaiian-ish kind of islands, but then at the same time, Australia has come up as an island as well. And so what is coming to mind, how they're filling me in here, is this is an island that has multiple terrain, and we're looking at like these beautiful pristine beaches, and we're looking at an interior that's more dense, but it doesn't feel like a jungle. It would feel like more of a forest than a jungle, if that makes sense. So we're not looking at like a chaotic, dense jungle. We're looking at something that's a little bit easier, like more bushy style. Okay. So what it feels like is, it feels like a small, like an island, like a big island that's smaller, is like the smaller version of a nearby island. And so what's coming to mind is like Papua New Guinea, and I don't know if that is still a place or if they changed that, because I know that's over by Australia somewhere. So look into that place, and it could be where, like, I don't know how the names are with these places, so it could be that could be the actual location, or it can be near that. That's how they come through and they filter through my system with what I know. So look around that area and see if the culture of these people, I want to say it's near Australia or near New Zealand, or it's just, that's what is coming to mind. And so how you can, like, what is it called, make a connection to this even, is one, are you someone that really likes island themes? That can be decor, that could be food, music, the atmosphere, island living. You might decorate your bathroom in an island decor style and not realize that it's because you're pulled towards that kind of thing. And if not, that's totally fine, but that's the kind of connection you can be making. Let's see. Also, I feel like the water is very, like the ocean, I guess, plays a big role in this, or in your life, in the people there. So that in itself, if you are called to the water, if you are someone that likes to just look at the water, if you feel drawn to it, if you feel you get energy from it, or on the flip side, you could be someone that totally doesn't like the water because your soul has already experienced a lifetime near the water here, so your soul wanting to experience something else may take you to another type of enjoyment, like environment wise. So you could just be a mountain girl living near the beach and you just don't feel right, or you could be exactly where you want to be and you found your way to the beach subconsciously near the ocean because it calls you, it feels like home, familiar kind of thing. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, what you do with the majority of your time. Here, this is the slavery card, and slavery, again, it can mean a few things. We're looking here, what it feels like more is like a dual, there's something like a dual slavery happening. So it feels like we're looking at, this is a female life, and we're looking at like an island. I want to say we're looking at something that's almost like a tribal community, and it's the kind of place where it feels like it stays more primitive. It stays more primitive there, even though the world might be developing, technologically or otherwise around it. So what they might be showing me as far as what it looks like time-wise could actually be later, and that's in itself what they're telling me is this might look like, people who live in the 13th century on a beach somewhere. But it's actually more like we're looking at the 1800s or the 1900s. So it's going to be a little bit like, what's it called? Like foggy with that. But what I can tell you is that the slavery card is coming up because it feels like, one, your duties in this community are already set for you. You don't get to choose it. So I feel like there's that, where there's no choice there, there's that slavery feeling to that, because there's a lack of freedom in certain choices that you might have made otherwise. Because this female, this person feels like someone who likes to express themselves. Like I see someone that's dancing even, but her dancing has to be limited to like ceremony or ritual or whenever it's appropriate for the females of her age or whatever's happening here, for her to dance. You know what I mean? So this is someone that likes to express themselves, that can only express themselves in certain ways at certain times based on tradition. So in your current life, you could be someone who has come into this life to express yourself. It could be where, you know, you used to have a hard time expressing yourself, and you decided, you're like, I need to kind of take action and learn to voice my opinion. It could be that at one point in time you felt like you were a people pleaser, or you were walked on a doormat maybe, and you've had to learn to voice yourself and express yourself and kind of take control of your life in that way. It could also mean you've been expressive your whole life. You could have been the rambunctious one. If you have siblings, you could be the one that talked a lot. You could have been, honestly, you could also have been someone that, like a kid that might have been hard to handle sometimes because you just wanted to like do everything, maybe like run around, experience things, maybe you were the imaginative one, maybe, you know, that kind of thing, where this person, it feels like they really very much have to rein it in. And so how that can work in this life too, another connection is you could have chosen a family where you know you would be allowed to express yourself, or that you know, like subconsciously, that you would eventually have to find a way to express yourself. And you know, I mean, expression comes in many forms. In this one, I feel like dancing was part of it. And so in your current life, if you feel like movement calls to you, even if you're alone and you like to move or dance or gesture a lot, whatever that is, that could be stemming through from this kind of expression. Or you could just have come back into this life to express yourself vocally, or maybe you like to sing, or maybe you like to write. You know, there's different ways to express yourself, but I feel like expression of yourself, of your true self, is part of the message coming through and being conveyed to you by showing you, hey, here's this life of slavery. Now you're here in this awesome time where there's so many opportunities and you're not in a place where there is slavery, basically. So it's like, take advantage of that, right? Another way I feel like slavery is going to play a role in here, because I also feel like we're looking at a time period where colonization is happening in this place. It's new to you. It feels like there's newcomers coming in. It feels like the kind of thing where at first it feels like negotiating, like these new people want to, like, you know, do like trade with you on equal footing, and then it's the feeling of turning kind of nasty pretty quickly, almost like they fooled you in a sense, not you, but your tribe or the community, because I feel like we're looking at a very simplistic community. And it's also kind of ideal, even though you weren't allowed to express yourself as a female or do certain things, it's still like an ideal living situation, because it's like there's this wonderful community feeling. So in your current life too, you could be someone who feels like you're aching to be part of a community, or yearning for a community or a tribe, or, you know, like people who get you, people, you know, that kind of thing. Or you'd find that that's actually already important to you, and that you found yourself surrounded by community because you've chosen to come back to experience that again because it's familiar, you see? So you can come back with it already there, or you can come back and you feel like maybe you're searching for it. And if that's the case, you feel like you're always looking for people that get you, or you looking for your community, it would come from here, because there's a feeling of not only a great community feel, but the feeling that we're looking at something that is about to be torn apart a bit here. So we're looking at when they're, and you might want to Google this and try to find it, because that's the fun part, is the, you know, validating part. In that place, Papua New Guinea, or an island near there, look and see when colonization happened, and look and see how the people, the native community, tribal people, whatever it was, if they're tribal, see how their culture is. See if you can find any information about like ceremony, dancing, celebration, expression, women of that time. I know it might be difficult, but I mean, Google's amazing, so check it out. Maybe you'll find something interesting. Okay, so we're going into this day here, and we're looking at a female also that is like, I want to say like just past puberty, or like, and that's kind of relative too, because I feel like we're looking at a very young female, but this is like a community where I feel like they do partner up young, just based out of tradition. So we're looking at maybe like a 14-year-old who would get married. I feel like it's that kind of thing, but we're looking at someone that's not quite 14. I want to say a little past 14 here, but still like really on the cusp, like very young. And so this first important day here, we have the move card. And this indicates a changeover of some kind. Someone's leaving, something is happening, there's something happening here. So the relationship involved is the friends card, and the feelings involved, this is kind of like a sorrow kind of card. Now, what it feels like is, it feels like with this, it feels like these people are coming in and colonizing, and I feel like there are people that kind of see it coming, and the group is split in two. As far as like right before this thing happens, I feel like the community is split in two, where some people, you know, kind of want to give them the benefit of the doubt and kind of keep going, and then the others that are growing suspicious, which is a really new feeling. Suspicion is a really new feeling, and that could be brought up now, because in your current life you could be someone who has experienced betrayal, and almost maybe like betrayal could be one of the biggest pet peeves of yours, like a disloyalty. Whereas, you know, some people it's lying, or other people it's cheating. It's like this is like just the feeling of betrayal, or like loyalty, or disbandment, like almost like an abandon. It's a weird abandoning feeling, because even though everyone's there, it's like you're experiencing the first time when things are not like cohesive, and people are kind of like arguing with each other, because this is not like an argumentative kind of community. It's not aggressive. I feel like that's why it's kind of ideal in a sense. And here we're seeing argument happen. So you could actually be someone who is not good with confrontation. You could be that kind of, you know, someone that's like gets shaky with confrontation. It just does not sit well with you. On the other hand, having experienced it here and not being really sure-footed with it, you could have come back into this current life to be as a much stronger person, ready to take on confrontation and be able to handle that kind of thing, you know? So keep that in mind if that speaks to you. So what we're seeing here is, I feel like there's this traditional aspect to you. And I feel like you are with the people that are like, let's stay put. We've handled things for centuries, and we've been fine, and nothing bad has happened, so why would it happen now? And da-da-da. And so there's this naive quality about it, which of course lands a lot of people throughout history in hot water. So in your current life, how this might speak to you is you could be someone that is very almost like paranoid about being naive. Maybe you don't give people the benefit of the doubt this time around. Maybe you're more like, you're just more like, what's the word, like grounded, like more like, okay, bad things are a possibility, so let's at least like play with the possibility if this happens. So basically you could be someone that has a plan B always. You could be someone that has like, you might be one of those people that are like, okay, if the world goes to shit, then I have my backpack right here with my supplies of food and water, and you know, here's my plan B. Like, I know that's extreme, but you could be someone that feels like you always have to have another way out, or a plan B basically. And if that's the case, it would be speaking to you from what's happening here when there was no plan B. And so I feel like there is a group of people, I feel like there is a split off, and it's not a big one, it's a small group of people, but they're paranoid enough that they follow their instincts in a sense, and they get out of there. And I feel like we see almost very quickly after that, we see a kind of a hostile takeover in a sense of how it might be here, where there's a community and then people, a community with bows and arrows versus sophisticated people with guns. Kind of like a takeover where there's exploitation involved. And so it's the kind of thing where in your current life you could be someone who really, it might be like one of the worst things if you feel like you're being taken advantage of, or if you feel like you're being asked to work more than you should. So like, let's say, in your career or whatever you do for work, that might be something that really grinds your gears, is if somebody's like, oh, can you come in on Saturday and da-da-da, and they just try to kind of take advantage of your nice personality or your giving personality. And that could be a pet peeve. And if that's the case, this would be coming up to kind of tell you to be firmer about standing by your gun, so to speak, like saying no, I guess. And that is a big theme with a lot of women, people having trouble saying no. And that's interesting. That's coming up too, because I feel like how there was like this female oriented kind of theme coming up. I feel like it's coming up again here as far as learning to say no. And this can even mean if you have kids, saying no to your kids. If you have, people that how we think they rely on us or love us or expect certain things, it's time to more like do what's right by you rather than meet the expectations of others. And you can do right by you by saying no. Or I guess, yes, whatever you want to do is what it is. So I feel like that's what is coming up here. So I feel like also friends are involved, because we're seeing the sadness comes in because we're seeing people you actually really care about and bond with going off. And it's almost like if there were different circumstances, almost like if your parents or your sibling or like people that your family, even though this whole community is like family, if your immediate family would have been on the going away side, you would have gone off too, and you know people that did go off. So we're seeing a split off of groups of friendships. So in your current life too, you might find that you have a hard time maintaining long friendships or friendships for a period of time. Or you can find, on the other hand, that you are actually someone that clings to your friendships even if they are beyond what is healthy for you, because we see the breaking of friendships of people that you've known your whole life. And so that in itself is kind of traumatic. This day is a traumatic day. It's almost as traumatic for you to experience the community splitting apart as it is for people to come in and do this takeover kind of thing. It's just a traumatic experience. This also can mean that you do not like authority, that you have issues with authority. Let's see. Oh, and also goodbyes. You might be someone that is a big it's like a big deal to say goodbye to people, let people go, that kind of thing, where I was talking about the clinginess, which is a terrible word, but you know what I mean, like just the desire to like keep things together even beyond a healthy relationship, so to speak, like we've all had a friendship that has run its course kind of thing. So it's almost like that message too is coming up, to be able to release or let go of even relationships that you deep down know have run their course. This is something else like we like to stay in denial about. We keep these friends we've had forever when obviously, and Facebook is no help there, but obviously we have outgrown people in our lives, even family members, even our parents. Like you can tell when you emotionally or spiritually or mentally, whatever, outgrow people and they do nothing but kind of like hang on to you. And, that's a lesson in itself, to be able to release relationships that are no longer serving us, and that's one of the harder things to do. But it's necessary, definitely, for our own development. Alright, so the next important day here. This is the Mother Nature card. So we're looking at something that's happening naturally. Usually that means like a natural disaster of some kind. It could be all sorts of things. So I'm just asking them to fill me in, and the relationship involved is the soul group. And that probably has to do with the tribal thing, because we find a lot of people that show up in tribes have a lot of like members of their soul group in the same tribe. And then the feelings involved here is joy. So I'm trying to see what is happening here. I'm trying to see where they're taking us. So we're on the beach. It's almost like getting really rocky, like a storm, like a big storm. Like a... Check and see if they have like tsunamis or tidal waves over in that area of the world. Because it has to do with water. There's a lot of water involved here, so this can actually go back to how you feel about water too. If you're someone that, you know, maybe you don't like to go out on boats into the deep water, or you get really nervous when you learn people are out in the rain, people you know are out driving in the rain, or just any kind of like water-based things, that might be a trigger to you. So keep that in mind and think about that. And if not, that's fine. But I feel like we're looking at like this thing with water. And there's also like, there's this idea, this feeling of using this natural disaster as a means of escape from what's happening, because by this point, it is almost like they're using you to... There's something about there's a resource on the land where you live. These people want the resource, and they're using you as the labor to retrieve the resource, in a sense. So they've basically, this is pretty much slavery, and so I feel like this is something you've seen before happen, because you're part of the island, you know, like your people know the land and the weather and the climate and all that. So this is a big deal where it's dangerous. At the same time, it's like, oh, we can use this because we know our way around. We can use this as a way out. And I feel like there's a group of people who are like on board. And I don't know if it's your idea or not, but you're part of the main group that gets the idea out to people to bring them with you. This is interesting. So it's almost like we're feeling this wave of hope hit you for the first time since this has happened. And I feel like this is like within a couple of years after this is happening, we're looking at this moment. And it's like, you know, it's coming. So it's like happening very quickly, but at the same time, there's enough momentum building where you can like ride this wave of hope, and you allow others to as well. And so in your current life too, you could be someone that you find you might be the one inspiring your friends, or building up your friends' confidence, or encouraging people. You might be the one encouraging your friends to do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? That might be a role that you feel you take on in your life as well, because there's this hopeful feeling that you keep alive for these people as this storm is brewing too. It's very interesting, the feeling of it. It's like this deep, dark, brooding storm. Imagine yourself standing on a beach, and out there you can see it. If you've ever seen like hurricanes like coming in, it's like you see the storm, it's right there, you could feel the winds kicking, but there's no rain yet, and the air is like a different pressure, and you know it's like gonna be within hours. You have so much time to get ready. And it's that weird feeling, like it's dark and it's also light. So it's just, that's where they're putting me for you right here. And it's almost making you like the pivotal person, because there's something about like, it's either you're the lookout, or whatever happens, however it begins with you. Like the formula for escape, or whatever is happening, it begins with you. You might be like the lookout that gives the signal, whatever it is. And honestly, the kind of connection you can make with that, it might sound kind of silly, but if you were ever a kid that liked to play games, like imaginative games, where you would be like on teams, and like, I can't explain it much better than that, but if you like to play games when you were smaller, where you're like on teams and you have to be the lookout and kind of like capture the flag. If you really enjoyed playing capture the flag, it's the same feeling as that kind of game. So keep that in mind. I don't know why sometimes I just say random things that hopefully click, and if not, that's totally fine. But yeah, there's the feeling of joy coming through because it's really more of like a feeling of freedom coming through. So that in itself could connect with your current life too, where it's a couple of things. It's like, one, you might always be looking for the next thing. Like you might always be looking ahead of the game and not being present in your life a lot. Like maybe you found that you want to be present more and you notice I have trouble being present. And that could be stemming from this mindset that was so intense where you had to always look ahead. Like for this moment, your job was to look ahead. So you might find that in this current life, because of the intensity that occurred with here, you could have come back with that feeling of always needing to plan ahead, or that plan B that we were talking about, or like looking to the future, not being able to be fully present. And if that's the case, I can tell you this would be coming up as a message for you to try to become more present. Because when you focus on the present, the more you focus on the present, the more you are in charge and in control of what comes from it, or of what's coming into the future, so to speak, if that makes sense. So even if you're someone that is worried about the future or always looking forward, if you can remember that by being present, you're actually doing the healthiest thing you can be doing for your future. And I want to say that is what is coming through out of this, really. So if that connects with you, great. If not, that's fine. Keep making connections where you can. That's the important part. Because you might be able to make connections that I don't know because you know your life, you know, that kind of thing. So just keep making connections. The soul group does come in because this group you're gathered with, I would say if there's a friend that you've met in this life that you feel like, maybe it's not like the feeling of knowing forever, where it could be, but more like the feeling would be if you met someone in this life that you wanted to, what's it called? Like, this would be someone that you may know that gives you the feeling of wanting to play, like go off and play cops and robbers, or like Thelma and Louise, or like, this is someone, even if you met him as an adult, it would be that person as a kid that you would have slumber parties over with, you would have like a slumber party with, and you'd be like planning things together. Like if you've seen Harriet the Spy, I know this is really hard, it's like hard to explain what the feeling is, but if you've seen the movie Harriet the Spy, it's like you'd be best friends with that person because you guys would like try to like solve mysteries together there, like that kind of friend where you want to go and solve mysteries together, or someone you can go on a ghost tour with, someone you could like, you know, these cool suspenseful moments that you can do. Like if you have a friend like that reminds you of that, it could very well stem from this past life, because there's a group here that you're really in tune with, and there's at least one person, possibly two, there's at least one here that is part of your group, your very personal soul group that comes in and out throughout the lives with you. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, the death card. So here we have murder. So what's interesting is I feel like the escape plan goes accordingly, but I feel like even though you get out of there, you're still caught later. I don't know what happens, but it's a feeling of you do get out when how you intend to, but it's like really hard going, and it's like you just can't go far enough, fast enough. It's just like a bad situation, and I feel like you do end up getting caught just back. It's like the same people, it's kind of like captors, you know, it's the same people that you work for, I guess, you know, you're working, but that make you work for them. And I feel like it's the kind of thing where it could have been either a fight to the death, but whatever, it could have been a fight to the death, or they could have intentionally killed you just for like being like, what's the word, rambunctious or whatever it is, you know, trying to escape, like they don't want to put up with that kind of thing. So whatever it is, I feel like those people are responsible for your death, and it does feel something like very quick and very blunt happening. quite frankly, it feels like a blunt hit to the head or back of the head, and I want to say it's more like back of the head, base of the skull kind of thing. So in your current life, if you're someone that does experience achiness or headaches, or if you experience neck pain, shoulder pain, if you also experience paranoia, like if you're walking, you know, I mean, women in general experience paranoia, but if you feel like there's something behind you sometimes and you just like, you know, quick glance kind of thing, that all those symptoms can stem from something like this. You also, and if you have like a thing with your heart where it does a skip a beat thingy, if you've noticed anything with your heart where it's like a weird skip or something, because there's a condition like that. If that speaks to you at all too, it would stem from here too. It's just from the kind of death it was. Yeah, and so and I would say this kind of death, there's a bit of a feeling of responsibility with it, because you were part of, you know, you're part of this group, and everybody feels responsible for everybody in this group because it's a plan to escape. And I feel like that responsibility, if it lingered with you at all, it would come out as, in this life, as a personality trait that makes you very protective over people, even if a short time knowing them, or very protective. You could be protective over women, the kind, you know, where you might sit in your car if you see like a woman walking alone to her car and you're in your car, you might be someone that just watches to make sure she gets in her car. That kind of protectiveness over children, or, you know, people you find close to you, or that even like the underdog. You might really veer towards the underdog because of what has happened to you, because you were the underdog. So if that speaks to you, great. If not, that's really good, because that means you don't have headaches or neck aches or shoulder aches or back aches or anything like that. But if you do, it would stem from here, and you're very capable of getting rid of that kind of thing once you realize it comes from a past life and it doesn't serve you anymore, okay? So what's really nice is the lesson here. This lesson is a lesson for boundaries, and it's really nice because we see you learning to create boundaries even in very dire circumstances, like being taken over and you're, you know, basically enslaved, and this is a whole new, you know, these are people you've never seen before. It's this very scary, fear-based situation happening here, and yet you still, even as a woman, and even in these situations, you know, with the weapons they have, whatever, you're able to go beyond the fear and create boundaries for yourself, in the sense of, this is not okay with me anymore, I need to get out, and we need to get out. And so those in itself, those are very powerful boundaries. So these are the kind of boundaries that move you past fear. And so if this is coming up, I would say it can come up in a way for you currently to utilize, in that if you find that you have any fear-based living circumstances, you can always pull in the energy of what you've been able to do before, or maybe you already know that you have it, to create boundaries on how other people treat you, on what you're willing to take, boundaries on how you're willing to express yourself. You know, like it's almost like this life was made for you to not be held back in any way. You know, held back by the society around you, or held back by particular characters or people involved in your day-to-day existence. It's almost like this is coming up because there are healthy boundaries that you can and should be creating for yourself. And there's also certain boundaries that don't need to be there, right? But I feel like more than anything, healthy boundaries is the message coming through. Boundaries, like taking away boundaries that you've put up yourself, and also putting up boundaries yourself towards others that might want to go past your boundaries, if that makes sense. So I feel like this is a really good card to have also in the new year, because now that we've started this new year, it's like this is an excellent time for you to kind of like dive in and learn where you need to put those boundaries up and where they need to come down for yourself, where you need to put them up for others, and kind of like how to move within these boundaries. And I feel like expressing yourself is going to be part of the creation or tearing down of these certain boundaries. So I feel like that is what the main thing that had to be said was basically, in this time, take the opportunity and take advantage of the fact that you are capable of and should be expressing yourself in a way that allows you to feel freer based on the boundaries you've set up for others and based on boundaries that you are willing to take down for yourself, if that makes sense. So, there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make connections, and I'm here if you have any questions, and thanks for letting me read you.